Do you ever wonder what goes into that first estimate after you get into a collision?
So it's more than just snapping pictures and guessing a price. There's a whole process behind it on figuring out what it's going to take to fix the vehicle, and we'll get into it.
So what is that preliminary estimate?
So it's going to be kind of the first look at the vehicle after the collision. So it's going to be what you can see from the outside, and a lot of insurance companies will write their preliminary estimates just based off of photos. So you're not taking anything apart with it. It's going to be just what you can see from the outside. You try to get as much as you can with it, just to try and get as much as possible on there so it's as accurate as you can be without getting too deep into taking it apart or anything like that. But it's going to be what you can see from the outside.
But it's not 100%, like everything's not going to be on it.
Right, yeah. With most claims, there's always going to be some sort of hidden damage. You know, if there's something damaged behind a bumper or something internal with the door, depending on where it gets hit, a lot of times there's going to be more to it after the vehicle is disassembled.
Okay, that makes sense. So what does the estimate contain? Like what's actually on the paperwork that a person would receive?
So with that, you're going to have the customer information, their name, phone number, contact information. You're going to have some of the insurance info as well, the company that it's going through, the claim number. That way you can reach out to them for that. And then you'll have also information regarding the vehicle. You have the year, make, model, VIN number, and sometimes the paint code.
And as far as like the damage that's on the vehicle, in the preliminary estimate, what damage is going to be on that estimate? And then what kind of damage is not going to be on that estimate?
So the most apparent things that you're going to find in a preliminary are going to be like the body damage and the paint damage. That's usually the most obvious that you can see. If a panel needs to be repaired, the doors or the bumper, if the paint needs to be fixed as well, those are things you're going to see.
Like scratches and scuffs?
Scratches, dents, scrapes, things like that are a lot of times what you're going to see. If you can tell that a door has been hit hard, you can tell maybe that the door needs to be replaced. But a lot of times it's just going to be body damage.
And then talking a little bit more about different components, you're talking like electrical, safety components, mechanical.
So some of those things you can see in a preliminary estimate. If you can tell that the wheel is bent in, then obviously you might need a tie rod, and that's going to be something that you can see right away for mechanical work. But if it's a front end hit, it's possible that the condenser or the radiator might be damaged, and that's a mechanical thing that you may not see right away. So that may not get caught on a preliminary estimate. But safety components, same kind of thing. Some of them might be obvious if an airbag is deployed or if a seatbelt is locked up. That's something that you're going to be able to tell pretty quick.
Right.
But until you get into it, do a scan on it and get into some more advanced diagnostics, you're not going to have a whole picture as to what's going on there.
So as far as like prior damage, if there's prior damage in the vicinity of where the collision was, what does that have to be included in the preliminary?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Most of the time, it's not going to be part of the insurance claim. If it's something that was there before, the insurance is going to claim what happened from that incident. However, if there's a dent on a door, let's say, and there's a claim on a door where the insurance is going to pay to have the door disassembled and repaired, but there's a dent that's unrelated, that might be the time to get something like that fixed, because the door is going to be disassembled anyway. We're going to be painting it. For just a little extra labor, we could repair something that's unrelated. Or even if it's on a separate panel, if we're doing a front bumper job on a vehicle and you have damage on the rear bumper you want fixed, it would be cheaper to do it at the same time as well, because we're only mixing paint for it once, matching the color once, running our paint booth once, to where we can kind of give a little bit of a discount if you want something fixed at that time.
So there's some cost benefits of having two jobs done at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Cool. All right. So how long does it take to get like a preliminary estimate written?
So it really depends on the size of the hit. If you have a lighter hit, if it's a scrape of a bumper or just a scratch, things like that, it can be pretty straightforward. It could take 5 to 10 minutes. If we're looking at something that's a bigger hit, maybe you hit a deer, maybe you got T-bone, something a little bit more severe, it could take a lot more time depending on how much research needs to be done. If we need to start looking into OEM repair procedures at that point, we may end up doing that at that point as well. So it could take 30 to 60 minutes, if it's a bigger hit.
Does the customer have to wait for all that?
No, not typically. All that we would need is the vehicle to be here, just get the story from the customer, get what's going on with it, what happened, to get an idea of how severe the hit was. So we just want to have that conversation with the customer and kind of get an idea as to what the story was with the vehicle. And then we're going to get as many photos as we possibly can of the damage that we can see. And then from that point, if the customer wants to leave, we can certainly email them our estimate, just so they don't have to wait around for us to write the estimate, source parts, and do any of the research on it.
And it's important to know what happened in the accident, the impact, because that tells us what we have to look for damage, whether the impact, if it was significant, if could be secondary damage from the impact. And it kind of gives us an idea if there's maybe electrical or wheel damage or structural components that are damaged.
It can give us an idea as well. If it's a heavier hit, it can actually knock some of the cameras loose in the windshield. Some things that may be unrelated, you may not even think of, but the manufacturer states if it's in a collision, if it's a hard hit, that you would have to do. So some of those things you find out through talking to the customer, getting the story as to what actually happened there.
So it's key to know what hit it or what the impact was.
Absolutely. The story makes a huge difference to understanding how that inertia transferred through the vehicle, all the different things that can go into that. So if we write a preliminary estimate at our shop, why might that look a little bit different than one that you would get from a different shop in town or from your insurance company?
And that's a good question. We get that one a lot. There's a lot of different factors that go into the preliminary estimate, and we will talk about that on our next episode.
Yeah, so that's the breakdown of what we look for in a preliminary estimate, kind of what goes into it and how it sets the base for getting started with the claim. So until next time,
just take it to Bailey's.